Welcome to Nice Ashes. I'm Nate.
And I'm Mike.
Now, what in the heck are we smoking tonight, Mike?
Well, on a theme from a previous episode, we are starting our CAO Flavours extravaganza. And the one we're smoking tonight is the one I've had. I've never tried any of the other ones, but it is the CAO Moontrance.
And how would you describe this flavor?
It is officially bourbon vanilla. And the wrapper itself is a little sweet.
Yes, I noticed that.
Taste. And the smoke is sweet as well.
All right, so I'm lit. It is a bit sweet. It's not, I would say initially it's not overpoweringly sweet.
No, in my experience, these have not been overpowering. They're just a nice...
you know what? It took me about 4 or 5 puffs to finally get the vanilla. I'm not getting a whole lot of bourbon right now. Flavor, but the vanilla is coming through, and it is
bourbon vanilla is a type of vanilla. Yes, I think. I can do some internet research and find that out real quick. What
I thought it was bourbon with vanilla, but I don't know. So far, I like it. It's a good change from our Cohiba Black that we smoked last episode.
Yes.
I wouldn't probably want to smoke 2 of these in a row. Just initially, thoughts out into the void. But, I also don't necessarily want to drink like 2 hard seltzers in a row either.
Yes.
But speaking of drinking...
Vanilla. Oh, yes, drinking.
Well, you do the bourbon vanilla thing first.
Okay, bourbon vanilla is a type of vanilla, and it is the OG powerful vanilla from Mexico.
Okay.
So for those of us who go to Mexico occasionally and pick up the big bottle of pure Mexican vanilla, that is bourbon vanilla. That's why it's so good, because it's the real stuff.
Got it.
Yes.
Well, I do like this. I do like this vanilla flavor. It does not taste artificial, really. It's got a nice feel, nice taste profile to it.
Yes.
I would say. I'm drinking with my cigar an Insight Vibe, which is a New England IPA from a Minnesota brewery.
And I am drinking Michelob Golden Light because I had some extras from my trip. And a nice, clean, crisp, light beer is perfect for a cigar like this, I think.
Yes. Any beer is a good beer if you like it.
Yes.
I saw that on a bumper sticker once. No, I didn't. I just was trying to be prophetic, but I'm not.
Again, we always have this disclaimer. For those listeners outside of the northern territories, McGolden Light is a kind of like a Bud Light, Miller Light.
It's lager.
Regional. It's better. I think it's better. But it's along the same vein.
So, real quick about McGolden Light. This is an interesting story for me, maybe not for you. But I didn't force you to subscribe to our podcast, so here we are. One of my good buddies spent many, 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 many years. He's 8 years older than me, so many, many, many years. Bartending. And I, for some reason, in my head, I thought Coors Light was the end-all, be-all for light beers. And I had gone to the bar he was bartending at and drunkenly, not so drunkenly, maybe, I don't know, I wasn't there, mentioned that Coors Light was the best light beer. And he goes, "Hold up, fucker." And what he did is he blind poured me a taste test. We did a blind taste test right there in his bar. He poured Bud Light, Coors Light, and McGolden Light. And he said, "McGolden Light is the best light beer you can ever drink." And I said, "No way, dude." And so he poured me those 3. And he mixed them up behind the bar in little shot glasses. And I tasted them. And the one that I liked the best, sure as shit, was McGolden Light. Compared, if you do a blind taste test with the three of them, it's very weird. It's very interesting because the Coors Light, even though you think it's better than Bud Light, I don't know. I might rank it the least tasty of all of them, and it just has to do with their marketing, I guess. So that's really like the power of marketing. But if you do a blind taste test, McGolden, I'd drink McGolden if I was drinking a light beer. Yeah.
It's kind of a special treat for my friends who aren't from this area because they don't have access to it.
Okay.
So anytime you can get something, it's kind of like Yinglings on the East
we
Coast.
just had some of that. One of our neighbors brought back a 12-pack for us, and it was good. I liked it.
I really
but you can't get
Yinglings.
it. You can't get it here in Minnesota. So.
No, you can't. I actually saw a guy fishing who had Yinglings, and I didn't have any beer on me, but if I did, I would have tried to trade him one.
Yeah, you would have traded, yeah. Here's a McGolden for a Yingling.
Yep.
Yingling is the oldest brewery in America, though.
That's
the first brewery. So that's kind of their claim to fame.
Yeah.
And their beer is tasty, so.
It is.
All right, what are we talking about tonight, Mike? This morning, whenever you're listening, whatever time it is on your clock right now, you look, and then that's what we're talking about right now.
Yes. I believe the topic today is going to be the leak that we had from the Supreme Court.
And not Roe v. Wade.
Oh, yes, Roe v. Wade.
Okay. I think like just initially up front. Let's up front. Both Mike and myself are men. We do not have uteruses. We know this. We understand this. We're going to say some things, I'm sure, that will be offensive to somebody, somewhere, somehow, some way.
Additionally, I would like to say, because this does matter, Nate and I are both in a position where abortion's likely not going to be a part of our lives at this point, because we're both stable adults in stable relationships, and if my Sarah got pregnant, we would not have an abortion. So it's not really something that personally affects either one of us. Nate has a child as well, so that it's not going to affect him and his wife.
So, but we're going to try and be objective with this discussion, and hopefully not piss too many people off. But
well, I'm sure I will, because I have a pretty hard line stance. I'm sure I will too.
Okay,
I have a very, very hardline stance.
Okay, let's get into it then. What's your hardline stance? Let's just get that out of the way, and then we can talk.
Sure. Unborn children are not citizens of the United States, and they do not have rights. It's not about morality. It's not about what's right and wrong. Government policy is not about what's right and what's wrong. It's about laws and about the rights of citizens. And oftentimes, governments do things that are not morally right. That's why we have we round up illegal aliens, even though they're fleeing war-torn, poor places, and they're just trying to work and feed their families. That's why we get into wars. That's why we do all sorts of things. We, as in our society, our government, is not a moral force. It's just a function of our society, and it makes laws to make everything functions more smoothly, right? There's not a moral element on fixing the road. There's not a moral element to regulating pollution, in my opinion.
Or regulating flavored cigars.
Right. A lot of people try to bring emotion and morality into government functions, and that is not how good government works. Good government works on just facts and focusing on the facts. And the fact is that a woman carrying a child is a citizen, and the unborn child is not. So the woman has all the rights, and the unborn child has zero of the rights. That's just the way the laws have to work in order for our society to function.
If we look at nature, right? A lot of other species, their children are their offspring. I don't know. Some people get kind of messed up when you talk about pets or animals as like people or whatever. So the other animal's offspring are usually born, and then in an hour, a couple hours, they're like good to go. Mostly, they still need their mom for food, nourishment, some protection, but they are up, they're running, they're walking, they're jumping, whatever. And us, our evolution has favored the brain, so it keeps us in for as long as the brain needs to cook, and then we're out, and we need the year and a half to actually be able to walk around, longer to speak cohesively, coherently to other people, to communicate. So you could say that a fetus in the womb, if you were to say, well, you can't abort this fetus because it is a person, well, take it out, and you're going to find out really quickly that it's not. It most certainly is not. It can't sustain itself. It can't breathe on its own. It can't even find food on its own. A baby human abandoned on a doorstep, if nobody checks the doorway, it will die. It doesn't have the means to feed. It doesn't have the means to protect itself. It can't move. It can't even roll over yet. I mean, that's a developmental milestone, is being able to roll over for humans.
Right. And for those listeners who are trying to argue against Nate, he's talking about wild animals, not domesticated animals. A lot of people have experience with domesticated animals, and a lot of times domesticated animals are helpless for weeks and months.
Yes.
But that's because we domesticated them and made them that way. A dog cannot survive away from human society. We purposefully evolve those animals to be dependent on us.
And it's crazy because sometimes it doesn't even have to do with evolution. There's a raptor center here in Minneapolis, and they rescue eagles and falcons and other raptors, birds of prey. And there are some that are there, and they say this bird can never, ever be released back to the wild, even though we're here to rehabilitate them and to release them. That's our core mission. But if they've become too humanized or too dependent on humans, they cannot go back. They'll just die.
Right.
And so I can I can see on one hand, if we're going to stick with the raptor, let's stick with the Raptor Center just for a moment. You save a raptor, you rehabilitate it, and you say to truly be a raptor, you need to be in the wild. Well, if you release it in the wild, it will be killed or die of starvation. And then the raptor you spent all that time and effort on, that was all wasted, more or less, because maybe you bought it a couple extra months or a year, but it wasn't ready to go back. And part of the way that humans have evolved is we're very tribal and social. And, you need that. I don't know if you need the full 18 years, but you certainly need, I don't know. I don't know if it's 6. I don't know where it would be where you could go and actually kind of like survive on your own. It would depend on where you're from and where you live. For sure, because in a big city, it's different than out in the wilderness or out in a more rural setting. But that's part of how we've evolved is our children, our offspring, they're dependent on us for a good chunk of their early lives. And without that input, it's very, very detrimental and life-threatening in some cases.
Oh, absolutely. Children are extremely labor intensive for a decade, at least a decade.
Yeah. Our daughter, she loved playing in the snow, and she would play out there literally all day. But in Minnesota here, it gets below 0, and she doesn't know that. She doesn't know what frostbite is. She doesn't know what exposure is. And if we weren't watching her and didn't bring her in when she started getting cold, even if she couldn't tell that she was cold or couldn't articulate that she was cold, there's certain things, like there's environmental factors to consider as well.
Absolutely.
But this is just kind of a lengthy way of saying, or trying to say, that we're trying really to look at this from as many angles as we can without becoming overly passionate about one side or the other, because like most things in American politics or just American society, because football teams can be very divisive, and you can get to the us versus them argument very, very quickly in anything that you try and talk about with Americans.
Very quickly. And especially when people try to bring up morality, because that's like your opinion, man. That's not a fact. You can't back that up with evidence. You can make moralistic arguments, but you can't. It's not like 1 + 1 = 2.
And maybe this is a good kind of piggyback off of our last episode when you were talking about the Treaty of Tripoli, where we're not and never have been, maybe until recently, a Christian nation.
Right. Right. And neither one of us are Christians, so that does skew our perception.
It skews it.
Not that I was raised Catholic, so I do understand.
Yeah, I was raised Lutheran, which is Catholic light, so...
right.
We have less Latin, but just kind of, as much kind of strict adherence to random ramblings from the sky. The Bible, I mean.
Oh, geez. That's a zinger that's going to make people upset.
Good. Let's get your heart pumping.
Sure.
Heart disease is one of the leading killers of Americans. So let's get that blood pressure up a little bit. Let's delve into this. First and foremost, I think I should say this out front. I am not concerned in the least about the leak from the Supreme Court. I don't care that it happened. I don't care who did it. I don't want them to be punished. Our court of the land should not be secret. I don't care about the leak as much as I care about what was leaked.
See, and I will say that I'm not against the leak. I think that it was politically motivated. Who knows by who? There's various factors that go into it. And I ultimately don't think that Roe versus Wade being struck down is going to matter, ultimately, because people who support abortion are the majority, and the states that have a lot of Democrats already have legal abortion. It won't change. The states that are run by the anti-abortion forces, generally Republicans, already restrict abortion extremely. I think that eventually those states will loosen up their abortions regulations due to public pressure. Unless there's some crazy riot, there won't be any immediate change. Unfortunately, people will suffer, typically poor women or teenage women.
See, that's what I was going to say.
That's who's getting abortions to begin with, are poor women and, disadvantaged women and teenagers, or women that their life is threatened or who've been raped. There's usually not a good situation. I mean, I should say 100% of the time, there's reasons why people get abortions, and it's because it's not good.
I don't have any proof of this, but I saw something that said that, the people who outlaw abortions are the same people who will drive their kids to the abortion clinic or will pay extra to have a kind of a clandestine abortion where nobody knows of it. And I think it just kind of comes down to, if you're in the ruling class, you're not the average citizen. Whether that citizen is wealthy or poor, if you're in the ruling class, a politician or a corporation that sponsors or has bought in several politicians, you know what? The laws don't matter to them. And they're going to do whatever they do. And mostly what they do is kind of two-faced and is really for some... the best way to explain this is kind of like I've been reading Dune in the Dune series, and I'm halfway through the second book already, but one of the lines in there is like plans within plans within plans. And so some of this stuff, like, we're just not going to understand. Like, why does a conservative Republican Christian want to restrict abortions when maybe they themselves have driven their daughter or their son's girlfriend to go get an abortion? Like, what's in it for them? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. It's something that I can't put a number on. I can't put a figure on because I'm not in that circle, in that realm. I don't know what all happens there.
The polling shows that about 25% of the country is 100% against abortion. And then about 60% are for abortion in some fashion, of which about 25% are like me, where it's like abortion all the way. Like, I don't care. It's not a matter of morality to me. I don't think that abortion is a good thing, and I'm not a participant in abortions. I would say that it's not right for me to do, but I look at it purely from just a government angle. The government is not a moral entity. It does all sorts of things that are morally wrong. But it does it for practical reasons. And abortion exists for practical reasons because we have poor people. We have prostitutes. We have rapes. We have teenagers who get pregnant. These are factors in society that we have not alleviated.
And we have people that, for whatever reason, the pregnancy doesn't go as planned and could threaten the mother.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a legitimate thing to bring up as well.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Let's say it's not a poor woman. Let's say it's a slightly well-to-do woman, and she gets pregnant, but that doesn't fit with her plan for her life.
That's her right. Or
okay, I mean that's what I'm trying to get at, because there are some people that say, like, if you're limiting women's right to choose regardless of class. And I would say
I don't want any limitations on it. It's not my business.
No, it's not my business either. I'm just saying that, you hear all these arguments from the pros and the antis.
Sure.
Right?
My argument is typically not made in public because people aren't very philosophical about what the role of government is.
Well,
they pick and choose what they want the government to do based on whatever their opinion is at the time.
Same with the Bible.
Absolutely. So for those readers who don't know me, obviously, listeners who don't know me, I was heavily influenced by John Stuart Mill, who wrote On Liberty and who wrote Utilitarianism. And I pretty much agree 100% with those two treatises. For those who don't know, utilitarianism is the concept that decisions should be made based on what brings about the quote-unquote greatest happiness, which I generally think is how the government should be run. And On Liberty is a statement that says the individual should be free to do whatever they want as long as it does not directly harm another individual. Not indirectly, but directly harm somebody else.
See, that's similar to my thoughts. I don't know where it came from or where it started out, but the my right to swing my fist ends at your face is basically like a summation,
right,
of that. Not right. Saying that giving somebody the old 1-2 isn't sometimes called for. But it's usually only in self-defense. Legally speaking, you can't just go waylay somebody because they called you a bad name online or something like that. But then we get into that definition of directly harming another individual, and we've got people that say an unborn fetus is an individual.
Well, that's where utilitarianism comes in, right? The government has to run as a utilitarian entity in order to be fair and prosperous and well run. And unfortunately, because of the way our society works, the greatest utility is that citizens have rights and non-citizens don't. Because we, as a society, give benefits and rights and perks to being a citizen. And you have to, in order to give benefits and perks, you have to exclude people who aren't part of the group. And we don't give Social Security numbers to unborn children. Right?
That
the
is
second
true.
you get that Social Security number, now you're part of the system.
Okay. So let's talk about that, because you're born and you don't necessarily have to file for the Social Security number right away. So are you telling me that if you put off filing for the Social Security number, that you could choose to post abort your
That's very
child?
interesting. I did not know that the parent had the option not to file for Social Security number. I just figured it was automatic.
I don't think it's not necessarily automatic. It's something you certainly have to do, but the hospital doesn't really care. You know what I'm saying? You have to fill out the birth certificate.
I would think that the birthing facility would it would be kind of like your selective service card. Like you have to fill it out.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not sure. You have to fill out the birth certificate, but I know that until the birth certificate is filed, anyway, you're not assigned a Social Security number, and it takes the Social Security office some time to assign one, because they have all those numbers to count, I guess.
Sure, we're kind of splitting hairs here, but you know what I mean.
I'm doing this as part of a devil's advocate ruse.
Yes. That's true.
Because I want to let's delve into it a little bit.
Sure.
Because we're a modern society, and even non-modern societies had bureaucracy. So your child is born. Let's say you've got. I don't know if there's a limit between how long you can go before picking a name. You know what I mean? And filling out the birth certificate, I'm sure there's some statute of limitations. Like you have to do it at a certain point. But then that's that. If you would sit there and say, until you have a Social Security number, you're not a citizen, you don't have rights, you're not an individual. There's like maybe a 2-week window between everything being, agreed upon name-wise and sent in and filed and returned.
Sure.
Would that also be a legal time to terminate the pregnancy?
I would say that from a government perspective, they have to establish some point at which you become a citizen and have rights. So if it was at the point of birth, or is it at the point of, at Social Security, I would say it has to be when you have a Social Security number.
Well, okay, so here's the other question.
Myself.
Because legally, if you're born on American soil, you're an American citizen.
Absolutely.
And that's why we have so many foreigners that come and they call them anchor babies. And if that's a racist term, I'm sorry, but I don't know what else to call them.
Sure.
But they wouldn't have a Social Security number immediately either. It's just they were born here.
No, they would have a Social Security number if they're a citizen.
Yeah,
right?
But did they file the proper paperwork?
Well, that's another question.
Yeah, I know. Question. That's why I'm asking it.
By the way, update, I'm about halfway done with my cigar.
You're only halfway done?
I'm only halfway done.
Oh, Mike. I'm just about to the little wrapper, the little...
I took my wrapper off right away.
What's it called? I've only got about the band. I've only got about 1.5 inches left of the cigar.
Oh, see, and I have a good 2 inches left. I've been smoking it slow. I usually like... This a lighter tasting tobacco, very smooth.
Yeah, it's very smooth.
It's got that nice vanilla flavor.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it, and I like to smoke these cigars with my Sarah because she likes them.
Okay, yeah. Here's my thoughts. The first few puffs were not overly vanilla-y. The subsequent, I don't know, 15 or 20, pretty strong vanilla. I don't know if it's just my palate acclimating or the vanilla kind of tapering off a little bit. I still get the vanilla. It's just not as strong, so it's a very smooth, very, very smooth. The sweetest part is probably the very beginning, I think. And it becomes kind of less sweet as you move along.
A lot of that has to do with the flavor on the wrapper.
Which is good for me. Like, I enjoy this. This is a very good cigar.
They're excellent. I don't particularly care for flavored tobacco products, but those that I do like, I really like. And this is one of my favorites.
Well, I can see why.
Favorites. Just about anybody can smoke a cigar like this.
Yes.
Who's of age, of course. But you can definitely give one of these. This was a Robusto size. I don't know if we said that. But anybody, a non-cigar smoker, can easily smoke one of these and enjoy it. Very nice and light and smooth, and still got the good tobacco taste, but they're overall a very good cigar.
Yeah, it's still very much a cigar. It's right. It's not one of the heavy air quotes cigars that the FDA is trying to ban, where you smoke grape cough syrup. This is very much a cigar with vanilla in it.
Yes. So, anyway, yeah, and like I say, I am pro-abortion, and I don't pretend to care what the arguments against abortion are, because I don't. It's just not practical. And I don't care about the morality of it. I don't. Do I think it's moral? No. Doesn't matter. The government's not about what's right and wrong. It's about what is functional
and what they can tax.
Right.
We can look at the war on drugs and the legalization or persecution of marijuana. I guess I'm going to go out and just say that I am pro citizen's choice, whether that's male, female, or any of the other genders. If you're a citizen, then you have your choice, and that should not be infringed by the government.
Absolutely. I am very pro personal liberty.
Yes.
And I don't think that there should be any restrictions on what people can and can't do to themselves. I support full drug legalization.
Well, me too.
Nobody's going to start smoking meth tomorrow because they legalize it. It's not a realistic fear. I'm not going to smoke meth. People who are currently smoking meth are doing so regardless of what the law states. We might as well make it a little safer, legalize it, and tax it.
Oh, yeah. Here, I guess this is kind of, here's my kind of thought on hard drugs and things. And I wouldn't consider marijuana a hard drug. But let's go here with preventative laws real quick. I am 100% against preventative laws. If I'm driving home and I'm staying in my lane and you pull me over and I blow over the legal limit, I didn't hurt anybody, I didn't harm anybody else's property, leave me alone. Now, if I am intoxicated and I did damage to somebody's property, or I did damage to somebody's person or life, there should be a higher tier of punishment for me. But there shouldn't be preventative. If I'm speeding, leave me alone. If I am speeding and kill somebody or damage property, give me a higher tier punishment, but do not give me a punishment preventatively for something I have not yet done.
I'm not as extreme on that as you. Generally, I think speed limits in residential neighborhoods should be low and enforced. And on highways, they should be not there. Who cares what you're driving? As long as the highway, drive as fast as you want on the highway. It's very difficult to design a highway that way. Granted, it's very difficult to design a highway that way. But we could initiate an Autobahn-like policy and, have people drive in the right lane at a responsible speed, and people who want to drive fast, have them drive in the left lane.
Well, I mean, that's the whole issue is those slow people in the left lane. They're ruining it for everybody, really. But, speed limits, when they were first instituted, the cars were not the same as today. And, you've got all of these crazy things that have come out. And I drive a 2004 Honda Civic. It doesn't have any sensors, doesn't have backup camera or anything. And then my wife drives a 2016 Toyota RAV4, and it's got backup cameras, it's got proximity sensors, it's got blind spot detectors, it's got radar cruise control of all things. And I don't know, if those things work and those things are legal, then there shouldn't be a speed limit.
Sure. Like I say, the only issue would be teenagers driving through residential neighborhoods. I could see that.
Well, I mean, I understand, kids playing in the street. But that also comes kind of down to personal responsibility, too, is if you feel in control of your vehicle is one thing, that's personal responsibility. And if you're not in control of your vehicle, then you need a punishment befitting that. The other personal responsibility is the roads, the streets. And kids aren't perfect, and kids are learning, but roads are not play areas,
right.
And that's something that we're working with our daughter on. Is if we're crossing the street, you hold one of our hands or both. We look both ways, and she's not quite 2 yet, but she knows when she comes up to a street, she'll reach out for one of our hands. So that's where, we're working on it. She doesn't do it every single time, but she does it a majority of the time. But you know what? All it takes is one time. So, for me, there could be a little wiggle room in residential areas and things like that. But the other thing is, we've got an uncontrolled intersection in our neighborhood here. There's no stop signs whatsoever on one intersection, and that bothers me, just as a driver, because I don't trust other people. But we don't really value personal responsibility in our society. So that's another kind of contributing factor.
Given your neighborhood, I'm guessing you have a lot of Norwegian standoffs at that intersection.
Actually, I've never ever met another car at that intersection. But it still bothers me. I try not to go that way. I go different ways to avoid that intersection because I don't like it. But I love roundabouts, but I hate that intersection.
Most people hate them, the roundabout.
I love them.
Where they're located.
They're my favorite thing. I wish every intersection was a roundabout. I know we can't do it because of square footage or whatever, but I love roundabouts.
A lot of it's traffic volume, too.
I hate other people trying to use roundabouts, but I love using roundabouts.
I almost rear-ended an old lady at a roundabout. I had to take the center of a roundabout to avoid hitting her because she stopped in the middle of the roundabout. Yep,
and that's the problem with roundabouts is people aren't taught them, and they can't. It's almost like, can you fix my Wi-Fi? Can you teach me how to use this roundabout? Like, it's simple.
Same one, somebody came backwards down that same one, and
was going a circle, man.
Down the road when I was driving down it. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, people are interesting. I don't think we solved the Roe v. Wade thing. One of the concerns I saw online, and it's very tough now for me to decipher if people are actually being reasonable or if they're trying to perpetuate a political message one way or the other. But they were saying that if Roe v. Wade gets overturned, then they might also make like condoms illegal unless you're married or something. And I don't know.
There's a lot of open room there. And I will say, this is one thing that I will say that is political I feel that I have not been pro or anti-Democrat or Republican too much. But as of today, and it has been for a long time, there's a bill in the Senate with 48 Democratic sponsors who have already written onto it that would legalize abortion nationwide. And those weak Democrats will not bring it up for a vote, even though they have 48 signatures. So, those of you who are going to say all Republican this and Republican that, you're barking up the wrong tree. The Democratic Party are the ones who have caused this problem because they can't put the pressure on the members of the Senate and the members of Congress to pass the law, even though they have a majority. They have a majority in the Senate, they have a majority in the Congress, and they have the presidency. They could easily pass this through. Easily. No problem at all. And they won't fucking do it. So, if you want to look at who's responsible, if you're pro-abortion, look at your Democratic senators and congresspeople. And the president. Or
better yet, give them a call. Send them a letter.
Sure.
I don't know if that works.
I think it does.
I mean, it might.
It might. I don't know, but I know
usually they don't read them; their aides do. But
right. I know one of the big talking points during the last election was that Joe Biden was going to be an arm twister because he was in the Senate for so many years, and it's like, well, the people who are in charge of the government, who are all Democrats, are not willing to bring up the dirty laundry of their fellow members of government to get this law passed, and that's what it takes.
But they're all like 102 years old, though.
Well, I know, but there's always dirty laundry to bring out.
Well, yeah.
LBJ was having secret meetings with Republicans in his bathroom. You know what I mean? Like, they can do the nipple pinch if they got to do it.
Of all the places to do a secret meeting.
He did, famously. He would take shits and talk to people and threaten them.
Well, I guess if you're talking to somebody taking an angry shit and they're threatening you, they don't really have a whole lot to fear.
Right. But, so that's, that is my little political statement, is that there is a bill, there's been a bill, it's the same bill that's been around forever. And it's basically codifying Roe versus Wade into federal law, which would make the Supreme Court null and void. But they won't do it because they don't want to do it, because they want to run on it, because it's a political issue, and they don't care about the consequences. And there's no negative repercussions for them doing so, and they're going to continue to do it probably.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know if we talked about it, but I don't vote anymore. I used to vote third party, and until I realized, and it was, I learned that Republicans and Democrats work together to keep third parties off the ballot because they feed all the media, and they say, a vote for a third party is stealing a vote from, insert your favorite political party of the two here, and they work very efficiently together to keep third parties off the ballots, to keep third parties out of the public mind, and they work very hard to keep things that keep them in power, is kind of what it comes down to. And it's very, very frustrating for somebody who was kind of taught that even one vote can count and matter. But with the Electoral College and with the kind of the brainwashing of the American populace with third parties are wasted votes, it's going to take a huge campaign to undo that in the public eye, I think.
Well, the winner-takes-all voting system we have benefits a two-party system, and it is just a fact that the Democrats and the Republicans are almost identical on every issue that matters.
Yeah.
That being economics, war, taxes. They agree on all the things that actually affect how government works.
Yeah, and they fight on the little things that don't affect them, but could have huge consequences for citizens.
Sure, it has huge consequences, but there's typically, and this is my opinion, the arguments usually don't have negative consequences if they just do the quote unquote right thing. You know, legalizing gay marriage didn't negatively affect anybody. People owning guns legally doesn't negatively affect anyone. You know, there's a lot of these issues that they want to talk about. There's no negative consequences for half of the issue, quote unquote. You know, trans people having basic human rights does not negatively affect anyone. You know, a lot of it's just bullshit. It's bullshit because it makes people emotional and they want to talk about morality and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we don't have a flat tax. What matters is we don't have universal health care. What matters is that we are fighting wars on multiple continents. What matters is we have 180 military bases. What matters is that our military takes half of our budget. What matters is we're running deficits every year. But both parties want to run deficits. Both parties want to have fucking a huge war machine.
Of course they do.
You know, both parties don't want to tax corporations. Both parties don't want to put tariffs on foreign-made goods. So it won't change. And those things would have real long-term benefits, you know.
Yeah.
Not to sit on my high horse or, you know, up in my tower.
Hey, it's called a soapbox, Mike.
Yeah, I know. It's all bullshit. It's what it is. It's all bullshit.
Yeah. But you know what? It's our podcast, and if we have soapboxes, then they're ours to stand on.
I guess so, yeah. You know.
But, you know, no, I agree. It's one of those things where the more you learn about American politics, kind of the more depressed you become.
Oh, sure. I love there's a CNN quote, and they were talking about firearm control after a school shooting, which I'm anti-school shooting. Like everybody else,
me too.
Right?
I want to make that clear that
we're
both
perfectly
anti-school
clear
shooting.
that we're both anti-school shooting. But some CNN host said fully semi-automatic firearms. And it's like, what a manipulation to people who don't understand firearms. Yeah. Fully semi-automatic is a nonsense term and to scare people that don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't like Steven Crowder. I'm not a fan, but he did a great video where he had a bunch of models of the Ruger 1022, and he had people point at which ones they wanted banned and which ones would be legal. And then, of course, they pointed all the ones that were souped up with the extended magazines, and they had plastic stocks. And, you know, they're like, oh, that one's okay. And it's like the wood one with a short magazine in it. Yeah. And it's like, they're all extended magazines, or they're all the same gun. You know, they're all the same firing mechanism.
Well, yeah, it's all the same. It's all the same thing. Mine is stainless. I've got a Ruger 1022, stainless steel composite stock. I've got a couple of banana clips, you know, quote unquote banana clips.
Yeah.
High
I also have a
capacity
Ruger 1022.
magazines.
Yeah, and it's wood, and I have a lot of 25 round, all Ruger branded magazines.
Well, yours is safe, and mine is not. Very clearly.
Yeah, because mine's wood. Yeah, it's got a scope on it too.
Yeah, mine's stainless steel. I don't have a scope. I just got the pop up sights. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, I have a scope. I used to shoot prairie dogs with it. We would do all that, and obviously, you know where I live, it's like shooting squirrels and porcupines and you know, skunks and stuff.
Oh yeah, just the rodents.
Even though the last skunk I shot with a deer hunting rifle.
Well, sometimes you gotta send them extra quick to God.
I just wanted to make sure that I hit it and it died right away, and you know, all those things.
Yep.
But.
The humane thing.
Yeah, I was trying to be as humane as possible. And it was long enough to where I wasn't quite sure the 22 was going to be able to, you know, I wasn't sure about my optics.
Yes.
So, anyway, it's all AstroTurf. And this, I feel that abortion is along the same lines. Most of the people that really care about abortion are not going to be affected by the laws changing. You know, it's kind of a hidden issue, people getting abortions.
Yeah, it's, you know, there's definitely social stigma around it.
Oh, sure. And now they're publishing various animal medicines you can take to induce abortion. And, there's all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, I think, and maybe that's a good point, and maybe a good, because I'm done with my cigar, and it was very delightful. I did enjoy that. But I think that by making abortion illegal, or trying to, or giving people the impression that it is, will make people do more dangerous things. And by doing
Absolutely.
that, you are not having your citizens' best interests in mind when you're passing laws, which is one of the functions of government, allegedly. And it's kind of the same with drugs. And are drugs legal or not legal? And if they're not, well, guess what? Somebody's going to go huff glue, or somebody's going to, I don't know, do something else. When they could be getting a legal amount of drugs. The only kind of anecdote that I have is going to like a weed dispensary. You know exactly the content of THC and CBD and everything in those drugs. It's right on the package. You're not taking a chance that somebody put rat poison in it or whatever else you might mix with it or cut with it to save a buck and make more money at the drug dealer's table. You know exactly what's in it. It's been tested. It's there. It's safe. You know the amount, the potency. The same with drinking beer. You can look right on the can or the package. What's the ABV?
Right.
They're all legal things. Like there's no harm in legalizing everything.
The leading cause of death of 18 to 48-year-olds is drug overdose.
Yeah.
And it was during the pandemic, and it is now. And it's largely caused by fentanyl being cut into the drug supply, and people are largely unaware of it. So if we really want to save American lives, we'd legalize drugs, and people would go to the pharmacist and pick up their heroin. So there wasn't any fucking fentanyl in it.
And I think, to be clear, fentanyl is a legal drug. It's legal.
Right.
And it's been lobbied for, and the big powers that be, big pharma companies, have lobbied to keep that legal. OxyContin and other narcotics that are terrible, terrible things when you could just smoke weed or some other drug that's a lot safer but illegal.
Right. And, if people want to use fentanyl, if they could pick it up legally, then they would know the dose they would need and they wouldn't overdose. Well, they overdose less often.
They might still overdose,
It's a reduction of harm.
But at least you could put it squarely on them and not on the drug companies that just make this stuff, pump it out, and want people to use it.
Right.
Look at all the drug ads on TV. Is this drug right for you? Go ask your doctor. We're the only country in the world where drug companies market directly to citizens.
New Zealand.
New Zealand does too?
Yep, New Zealand's the other one. But they have a universal healthcare system, so...
Yeah,
it's
but most other places, the doctors are the experts, and if the doctors think your drug is good, they're going to recommend it, and if they think it's bad, they're not. But here, they get a cut for everybody who gets whatever drug it is.
Right. And like you say, this is a tertiary issue to the main event, but there is an argument to be made that China is initiating a quote-unquote third opium war because they're allowing mass production, legal production of fentanyl and illegal sale to the United States. But that's a separate, obviously not related to Roe versus Wade.
Yes, might be another podcast topic in the future.
Yeah, it might be another podcast topic in the future.
Well, the point is to say that the government, we're just trying to get to the bottom of what the government should or shouldn't be doing for its citizens, and I hope that we have shown that maybe government limiting things that could be safely done if they were legal is dangerous to everybody.
Right. And as an update, final cigar update, I am borderline roach clipping this, and it is still lovely.
Yeah, you know what? I smoked a lot more off of this one than the Cohiba, and I could have kept going, but my fingers are getting a bit warm, so
that's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So, anyway, CAO Moontrance. I'm for them. I like
I
them a
too am
lot.
for them.
I recommend, if you see them at a cigar shop and you've never had one, buy two.
Yep. And if you don't see them at your cigar shop, call your congressman.
That's right. Fight against the man or woman or they.
Or them. Until next time.
Have a good weekend.